Hey guys, hope you all are doing all right, hanging in there. It's crazy to think about, but this is our last week where we're dealing with any content. Next week, we'll have a review session. I'll set that up virtually, send you guys an email about where we'll hold the review session for the final exam, but we won't be going over any context, so we're finishing our discussion today. These last few episodes of The Wire really kind of bring together a lot of the stuff we've been talking about throughout the semester. I think it's a really good way to end. Obviously, I wanted you guys to watch this season to see what the experiment of drug legalization would look like. I realize it's fictionalized. I realize Amsterdam and the other free zones don't really exist. But I think this season of The Wire does a really good job exploring some of the benefits of drug legalization and then some of the fallout from that, whether that be young kids not having the jobs that they had or not having clean needle exchanges, as they talked about during in Amsterdam, or some of the other problems that stem from it. But we do know that within the context, again, the fictionalized context of Bunny Colvin's district, it had an impact. There's a 14% crime drop, and everybody in the neighborhood was happy because the street corners were clear and the neighborhoods were safe. But that is a little bit besides the point, because he did this without any blessing from those that were above him, and so it all came crashing down. And when it did, there's an illustration of what oftentimes happens during the drug war. If you remember, when everybody got rolled up in Amsterdam, it was the users and the low-level dealers. It was not Stringer or Marlowe or Avon or any of the other big guns that were out there controlling the game. It was people that were on the lower levels that were punished for their behaviors. And this is what we see. We see people get rolled up for possession. We see people get rolled up for simple distribution charges, but very rarely do you see the people that are actually making money getting busted within this war on drugs. There are a couple of scenes from these episodes that I think are really good, and so I'll provide some links to those. The first one is when Bunny Colvin talks to Carver about the drug war, and he uses that metaphor as a war and gives him kind of an impassioned speech about what the drug war has done to policing, what it's done to young police officers, and how it's kind of ruined the job. And I think it's a really poignant take on what we've talked about throughout this semester. Drugs are bad. A lot of people don't want to use drugs and don't want to encourage or see other people use those substances. But the way that we have chosen to go about combating this has had devastating impacts on communities, particularly communities of color, poor communities. It's had a devastating impact on kids coming from those communities. From a policing standpoint, it's completely altered police priorities. We've talked about that throughout the New Jim Crow, and this speech by Bunny Colvin touches on that. And it's completely altered the relationship between communities and police. And oftentimes, the communities that could use good policing the most are devastated the most harshly by these drug laws and drug prohibition. And that causes distrust within the communities. It causes them to not want to help police when it comes to real police work, when there's a murder or a rape or a break-in. People don't want to talk to the cops, and it's devastated that trust. So this scene, I think, really touches on a lot of that stuff that we've talked about. And then the last scene is Councilman Carcetti's speech. Again, very politicized. He makes some really good points. It seems to be said with a lot of passion. But again, it's representative of a lot of what happens within the drug war. A lot of people have really good intentions when it comes to combating drug prohibition on a political level, but oftentimes it's used as a way to step to another position or to make inroads, and it becomes an issue that becomes very politicized, and very rarely are concrete actions or steps taken that make drug prohibition better. We haven't seen a lot of those changes. However, we're going to end this semester on a good note. We have seen changes when it comes to marijuana policy in this country, and that's been a really good step over the last few years. And the decade before that, they've instituted things like drug courts, which still exists within the criminal justice system, but it tries to divert people out of the criminal justice system and into more rehabilitation and other types of help for drug problems. It's a human problem, and we need to deal with it with human solutions and human responses, not necessarily locking people up for addictions and for drug use. I've really enjoyed hearing all of your thoughts. I look forward to hearing the rest of them about these episodes, and about drug legalization in general. Some of the other content for this week will help fill in some of the gaps there. So I hope you all are doing well. I look forward to seeing most of you next week at the review session, which we'll do virtually. I'll see you guys soon.